In our last video, we looked at optimization by removing shadow policies and rules. In this video, we're going to continue our optimization theme. We're going to look at object optimization. So managing, an extensive infrastructure means you often have to work with multiple devices that contain, many policies and objects. It's not uncommon for admins to create reusable objects for specific purposes. Unfortunately, in many cases, the number of objects in an organization can grow and various issues can rise. In this example, we'll use CDO to optimize object usage within the environment. Specifically, we'll look at optimizing unused objects, duplicate objects, and inconsistent objects. So let's start with unused objects. While these don't have a negative effect on active policy enforcement, by an organization, they can clutter device management GUI and potentially cause confusion down the road, maybe when you get a different administrator or something like that. So let's look at how we can use CDO to identify unused objects. So click on Objects over here, and you can immediately see up here in the filter, we've got a red, icon there alerting us to maybe some issues. So we click on that filter, and we can see issues, unused, duplicate, and inconsistent. So we're going to look at these unused right here. So we click unused and click off that. And so as you can see, there are numerous objects, in this deployment that exist but are currently unused, right? So if we look at, this one right here, select it, and we've got our details pane on the right that comes up, just like our other examples. We can see some information over here. We see the details subnet and stuff. We see the relationship here, but we can see that this is not being used in any policy, so we can go ahead and remove this if we want to. So go ahead and click OK, remove. And that's that easy. We removed it. And you can continue to look at unused objects. In this filter here, and some of these aren't as easy to identify. Like hey, that's something that can be deleted. So it might need a little more research. But others like this. These ones that are test for a day or test for today. These are, pretty obvious that we could remove those. So I can select those two right here, click remove, and click OK. And, it's that easy. Maybe these other ones we need to research or something like that. But pretty easy to come in and identify unused objects and remove them. So let's now look at duplicate objects. So I'm going to go back to this filter here. I'm going to filter by duplicate and uncheck unused. So duplicate objects, these are objects that contain the same configuration content and either the same or different object name. And you can streamline objects in use by consistently leveraging a single object across devices and policies, rather than two or more versions of the same object definition. Utilizing a single object also ensures any changes to this object that are made we're going to push across all devices in the environment that are using that policy. Right. So, and then in addition, if you want to make that change, you can achieve your desired outcome, much easier just by changing that one policy. So let's take a look at this. So, you notice we are currently, only seeing a few duplicate objects from our onboarded CDO devices. So let's look at this local net one here, and we click on it, and we can see in the details over here within the object it is 192.168 98.0/24, and we can see the devices that it's being utilized on, and the policy relationship. So we can click here. We can say resolve this issue right here. So it gives us. We can click on this, and it'll show us a side-by-side comparison. So I've got LocalNet Dayton, and I've got network object, and then the subnet there, right? So I know that this right here, LocalNet Dayton, it fits my naming scheme that I typically use. So I'm going to click pick here. I'm going to pick that one to use, and I'm going to click resolve. And it's going to update these objects across these devices right here. In that policy, click OK. Click refresh. And there we go. So those two have been resolved. And it's just that, it's pretty simple as we see here. We've also got here this branch 3 LAN and our L2 VLAN 5, and so we could do the same thing. We could hit resolve here. We could look at these side by side, identify that they're actually the same subnet, just different names, and we could go ahead and resolve that if we wanted to. I'm just gonna move past this one, and we're gonna move on to our inconsistent objects. So an inconsistent object, these are objects CDO has identified within the environment that have the same name but different content. And ideally, in most cases, it would be preferred to have the object used for different purposes to have a unique name. While reused objects only exist one time. So let's look at this real quick. And click off that one. Click inconsistent filter there. All right, and you notice we've got several inconsistent objects found on our our onboarded CDO devices. So let's look at branch DNS here. Let's click on that. The detail plan shows up, and you notice that we have two relationships that consist of a couple of IP addresses. So we've got this one right here that's got these 3 IP addresses, and we look at the HQ, it's got 2 IP addresses. So looks like we've maybe got one additional DNS server provided on this one. So if we click resolve here, here we see side-by-side comparison of the 2 inconsistent branch DNS objects, and it appears that, like I said, the HQ ASAV and the branch 1 ASAD devices, both consume these DNS server IP addresses. They're shared values, but like I said, this one right here is inconsistent. It doesn't exist in both policies. So, we can determine that we want to, maybe we meant to have this DNS server in this policy. So the easiest way to resolve this would be to just merge these 2 objects together. So I'm going to merge these 2 together. Hit confirm. We can refresh that. And there we go. We've solved that problem. Pretty easy, right? So right there, just right out of the gates, we can see how easy it is to just identify these objects that we can optimize our device and get better performance, easier to administer the devices, and things like that. So some of the benefits that CDO provides right out of the gate for optimizing our devices. And don't forget that before I wrap this up, again, to get this deployed on the device, I still have to go deploy this device. I've just made these changes here in CDO. So if I select that device, right, and I look down through here, I can see that I need to synchronize this device, right? So I click, and I can see that here also. So I can click preview and deploy. And we'll hit apply. And there we go. So in this scenario, we resolved various object issues detected by CDO, within our, as we onboarded those devices, and we looked at resolving unused, duplicate, and inconsistent objects. So in our next video, we're going to look at doing some upgrades of our ASA and our FTD devices. So please check those out. And in the meantime, like and subscribe to these videos. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.